Oh. All right, we are back in motion. Hey, everybody, it's Tisha here with Tisha Talks Live, and a happy Friday to you, and a happy Superhero Day. Yes, it's Superhero Day. So excited because it's been kind of one of those months, and I need my superpowers to just kick in. But today, I have a special treat for you. We're going to be bringing in Phil Johnson in just a little bit here to talk about the value and importance of emotional intelligence. So if you have always wanted to hear about that, Phil's going to enlighten us with all sorts of answers to that question. And to kick us off, I want to give you a shout out to actually our sponsor here, Gateway Bank. He's James Christensen. I found him on LinkedIn, and he sponsors Tisha Talks Live as well as Social Connect Phoenix. So if you are in the Phoenix area, Social Connect Phoenix takes place every single quarter. Here's a picture of the last event that we just hosted of all the fun people that came out. And our next event is coming up on August 2nd. We're hosting a Let It Roll Summer Bowl. So you better get your bowling shoes on. We're going to be headed over to Let It Roll Bowling and doing some fun things and introducing you to some cool people. So the other event that we're getting ready to host is Connecting Through Community. And this is something that's very near and dear to my heart. I love going out and involving my family, involving my kids, and being able to support the community through volunteer service projects. So I am figuring the things out for May, and we'll be releasing some details soon. If you are interested in joining us and lending a hand, family and friends welcome, of course. All right. So before we get started, I just want to say thanks to everybody who's tuning into this live or who will be tuning into this or watching the replay. If you have any questions throughout this broadcast, you can absolutely ask us those questions or ask it in the replay and we'll get back to you. But before we get started, I always like to start with a little bit of a dance party and just introduce you to a little bit about what I do, and we'll go from there. So I'll be right back. All right, it is time. I caught Phil dancing in the green room like I always do. Phil's a little bit more low-key. He's nodding his head a little bit, but super happy to introduce you to Phil. I also see, because I am looking at LinkedIn right now, some people who are joining us. So do not be shy. Go ahead and throw a comment up there. Tell us where you're from. Tell us if you have some questions. Like this gentleman, Royce Blake, saying, hey, Tisha's in the house. My Friday's complete. I know, right? Right, Royce? And then you saw earlier that I'm sporting all the Wonder Woman gear. I've got my Wonder Woman mug, of course, from Kim off of LinkedIn. And I have to bring this little gal out. This is Tisha, my Wonder Tisha from Mr. Groovy, who also watches us on Tisha Talks Live. So yes, all right. My own Tisha bobblehead. Super, super fun. All right, guys. I hope you're ready because we're going to be talking again about emotional intelligence and bringing Mr. Phil Johnson into the stream. Hello, Phil Johnson.
I love your dance party. It's great to be on your show.
Thank you. So Phil and I were talking in the green room. Phil is out of Toronto, so he's battling the 50-degree weather while I'm out here in Arizona and battling the 95-degree weather. So a little bit of a difference there, Phil. I don't know if I could take your 50-degree weather right now, though. I kind of like the sunshine.
I think we should meet somewhere in between. I'll give you some of mine and you give me some of yours.
I agree. I love that. I love that thought. So you tell me, where are we meeting? What's the in-between spot between Arizona and Toronto?
South Carolina.
Oh, South Carolina. Okay.
It's a favorite spot of my wife and I. We love it there.
Yeah, I've never been, but I will tell you this. Tisha Talks Live is going on a break next Friday, so I will not have a guest because my sister and I are headed to Atlanta, Georgia. We're going to hit Savannah, and then we're driving up to Nashville and flying out of there just for the two of us. Fun sister
Yeah.
trip. Cannot wait.
It's a
Super
beautiful,
excited.
beautiful area.
Yes, yes. Okay, so Phil, give me a second while I add our banner because it's not complete without the banner, you know, because I'm trying to do all of these things. There we go. All right. So, people joining us on Facebook, thank you so much. Of course, if you're watching on YouTube, love having you as well. And Phil, today we're talking about emotional intelligence. And I don't know a whole lot about this topic. So, I'm going to put my learning hat on and ask you the first question of what is emotional intelligence and how was it developed? Can you share with us that?
Sure. Emotional intelligence is the ability to feel the fear and anxiety that's triggered in us when we step outside of our comfort zone and move through it towards what it is we're trying to achieve. That's a very simple definition.
I love that. So, how does someone develop emotional intelligence?
It starts out you need to have an emotional connection to something you want to achieve that's greater than the fear that's going to get triggered in you when you step outside of your comfort zone and to begin moving in that direction. So we have both biological and sociological resistance to change. Bottom line is you need to get in touch with a source of motivation for you that keeps you moving forward through your fear. And it's actually in that process that not only do you develop emotional intelligence, but you become more of an inspirational leader.
You know, it's so funny that you're bringing this up about the fear. We were talking about in the green room that there's two things that make people change. And you were saying there's two P's, there's passion and there's pain. And you were saying a lot of people can't connect that to passion, but we all know when we're feeling the pain of knowing that we need to change something. And I'm going to share a video a little bit later today, Phil, about my son who plays club soccer. We're a club soccer family. And he just joined a new team, new coach. These kids they're just rock stars. Like he gets there and here he is, this kid who was always starting on his other team, was the team captain. And now he's now on this other team and he doesn't feel like he really fits in. So I can definitely feel the pain setting in. I can definitely feel the fear setting in and having to just talk to him about how do you hype yourself up? How do you show up? How do you not let fear take over? And just, all those mom talks of like hyping your kids. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So I do that with executives.
Yes, of course, because you have the business leadership program, and we'll get into that in just a second. I want to give a shout out to Colleen O'Donnell. She is watching us on LinkedIn. Hello, Colleen. Thank you for being here. And of course, if you're watching, and I know we have some people tuning in, make sure you say hi. We'd love to see that you're here. So good stuff. All right. So why is it especially important, Phil, that we tap into this emotional intelligence?
Great question. More and more organizations are hiring, developing, and promoting emotional intelligence because we're facing a tsunami of accelerating change globally with a 500 million year old brain that doesn't like change. There was a study done at UC Berkeley in California that compared IQ with EQ, and they concluded after 40 years that emotional intelligence was 400% more valuable than intellectual intelligence in determining success. So it's a part of our development that we never got. Our educational employment system primarily focused on our ability to do intellectual labor, and because of the accelerating rate of global change, the development of our emotional intelligence is taking center stage.
So what would you say is like the biggest difference? So we're talking about, you just shared this study of how emotional intelligence is far more important than even an intellectual intelligence. Mm-hmm. So what would you say is like the biggest difference between that? Because I think a lot of us think of IQ, but we don't necessarily think of our EQ.
Well, let me give you an example. To start off with, of a company that's currently valued at $2.2 trillion. And they're doing about $600 billion a year in revenue, and their primary hiring focus is emotional intelligence. That company is Apple. That's why when you walk into an Apple store, the energy you feel is an example of a more emotionally intelligent environment. They're not trying to sell you anything. They're trying to understand your pain and, if possible, offer a solution. Whether you buy anything or not is secondary to the desire to want to serve you. They want you to have a great experience, and maybe you'll tell your friends and they'll tell their friends. If you think about it, the way you feel in that environment, the energy in that environment is a very different energy from the energy coming out of the stores surrounding it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's an example of a more emotionally intelligent environment.
Mm-hmm. I know. I have a funny story. I got my nails done a couple weeks ago. My husband, I don't ever splurge to get my nails done, Phil, because I'm like, what's the point? I'm doing dishes, my manicures fall
Yeah,
off. I know you're
yeah,
laughing at this. So my husband gets me a manicure pedicure, and it's not the traditional, the Asian salons that I go to, because let me tell you, they're lacking EQ when I go there, right?
yeah.
It's like, sit down, massage your back, let's just do your feet, you're out. So this was such a different experience. He actually sent me to a one-woman shop, a single operator, where she has her office in one of those like salon boutiques. Have you ever seen those in
Yep.
Toronto where they just have like a ton of different contractors, independent contractors? And it was so nice just to have a face-to-face conversation with her without the noise. And I was telling her, I was like, I don't ever get my nails done. This is such a treat. I'm actually very hooked that I've referred her to like 3 or 4 other people, including my own mother. And when I sat there with her, she's like, well, why don't you like going to those salons? I'm like, because I have ugly feet. And I feel like they're always talking bad about my feet. And I can't understand them, but I just have a feeling like I'm just being, talked badly about. So I just don't, I go into this place and I just don't feel good. Even though I have pretty toes once I get out, I'm just like, gosh, the pain of going through that experience just to have pretty nails. I'd rather not.
Yeah, you're alluding to a good point. Uh, we have because we've evolved over hundreds of millions of years from tribes, herds, we've had to develop the ability to sense whether somebody's trying to help us or eat us.
Yeah.
Um, so we have these specialized brain cells in our prefrontal cortex that brain scientists call mirror neurons. Um, that's why when you walk into a room or you have a conversation with somebody, you can sense um, whether they're trying to help you or not.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as one of the advantages of developing emotional intelligence is people get a sense that they can be more of who they truly are around you than they
Mm-hmm.
can be around their victim buddies. And that creates an attraction.
Mm-hmm.
So,
We were just talking about this in the green room. So
mm,
you were asking me, Phil, like what I like to do. And I like for people, I like working with solopreneurs specifically on building their brand. And you said, well, how do they do that? I'm like, they get comfortable with who they are. They
yeah,
don't care about everybody else and what they think of them. And I see Royce Blake actually put a comment here saying, sounds like imposter syndrome. Yeah, especially with my son, right? But when you can get to a point where you're like, I love who I am, I'm comfortable with who I am, and I want to attract more people like that.
mhm.
Yes, it's such a
There's
game
a,
changer.
it's actually, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole for your viewer, for your listeners or your viewers, but it's actually related to energy physics.
Mm,
Um,
hmm.
so as you learn to stop giving away your energy unconsciously, um, you begin to become less resistive, judgmental, and attached to outcome. And that creates that attraction. That enables you, you become more conscious of who you are and you become more aware of other people for who they are. So it
Hmm.
creates that connectedness.
Right. We had Olivia Vo was on last week, and I don't know if you saw that clip. I tagged you in it, Phil, but
Yeah,
she came in with her heart
I did see that.
glasses.
Yeah.
She's very sweet. I love her. She's actually in town Sunday, so I'm going to get to meet her in real life, traveling here from Florida. And we were just talking about that, of how I gave a speech last week in a room full of women. And I know like Colleen's on, and I'm sure some other women are watching this too. But you ever go into a room full of women and you just feel like the cattiness and the drama and the judgment.
Mm.
I don't know about you, Phil. I feel it. I feel it.
I don't. As a matter of fact, I love being in that kind of environment. I love being in that environment, especially with women. Um, women have more women have more connective tissue between the right and left hemispheres of their brain, so
Mm-hmm.
they can actually walk and chew gum at the same time. Men are more uh, point and shoot, results focused,
Mm-hmm.
logical. But yeah, I don't mind those environments at all.
Yeah, I think what we were talking about last week was that people will self-eliminate, right? Like you don't have to do anything. You show up, you do you, you be you, just like Roy's saying, be there to serve,
Mhm.
right? And there are going to be some people that will jive with you and
Yep,
some that just are like, you're not really for me,
yep,
right? And I've had a couple of those women where I'm like, this was nice. Goodbye.
yeah, yeah,
And that's all. I might see them again, I might not, but I'm not going to stress over, well, did they like me? Oh my goodness, they didn't like me. I'm so sad.
yeah. I've given a couple of talks to executive networking groups in the last few months, and I remember before I started out, I said, I want to apologize because to a lot of you, what I'm about to say is going to sound like Swahili. Um, and you're right. It'll resonate with some people that are ready to hear it, and it will not if you're not ready to hear it.
Okay,
Uh,
so what was it? What was the Swahili?
it was about talking about having a kind of an in-depth discussion about emotional intelligence and the need
Mm-hmm.
for and the value of. Um, I've been on about 100 podcasts in the past year talking about exactly this. And as a general statement, people have no idea about what emotional intelligence is or how difficult it is to develop or how important it is to develop. It's huge, and it's something that we're all going to be needing to do, but don't yet realize it. We're at the very beginning. We're facing a tsunami of global change. Some scientists estimate that in this century we could experience the equivalent of 20,000 years worth of change. So
Mm-hmm.
change is increasing at an exponential rate,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't like change. Positive or negative, we don't like change. There's a
Mm-hmm.
part of our old lizard brain that whenever we step outside of our comfort zone, it automatically secretes a hormone into our bloodstream called cortisol. And
Mm-hmm.
that causes the executive center of our brain to shut off. And we go into what's called an amygdala hijack. Some people lash out, some people run away, some people freeze like a deer in the headlights. When that happens in conflict situations, people die. When it
Mm-hmm.
happens in business or personal situations, relationships die. We burn trust. So, as an analogy, if you think of your amygdala as a very frightened 4-year-old child, the development of our emotional intelligence acts like a big brother or big sister to quiet the amygdala response down and better enable us to feel the fear and anxiety that change and innovation triggers in us and be able to move through it towards what it is we're trying to achieve as opposed to allowing that to keep us trapped in our comfort zones. So
Bryce,
it's a
you. Oh, go ahead. I was
it's
just
a
so excited, Phil. I was so excited because you just shared so many great nuggets.
let me give you a numeric example of the difference between IQ and EQ.
Yes.
Think of IQ as somebody giving you $10,000 a day for 31 days. So at the end
Mm-hmm.
of 31 days, you've got $310,000. Think of emotional intelligence as a penny that doubles in value every day. So
Mm-hmm.
day one, you've got a penny. Day two, you've got 2 pennies. Day 31, you've got $10.7 million. Day 40, you've got over 5 billion. Day 50, you've got over 5 trillion. So not everybody can have 160 IQ. If you have a high IQ, your parents had a high IQ, their parents had a high IQ, and you inherited those genes. But everybody can develop their emotional intelligence. It's an experiential rather than an intellectual process. And the ROI is massively greater than intellectual intelligence.
I agree. I agree. So let's talk about that for a little bit because you
Okay.
said everybody is going to need to develop emotional intelligence.
Yep.
So how does someone, can you give us some tips on how someone can start to develop this at a young age, or maybe now because they're realizing, oh my goodness, I need to change, just like you're saying.
Let me back up just a second and just give you a little background, and I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. Um, we're only actually conscious about 3 to 5% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the time, we're relying on our habits, our unconscious habits, to determine the bulk of our behavior and results, and that's fine. But when we're born, we're not born with a conscious mind. We don't start to become conscious until we're about a year or so old. But we are born with an unconscious mind, and we immediately start wiring up our brain, creating those neural network pathways that become our habits in order to survive, fit in, get food, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the habits we develop unconsciously cause us to give away our energy. And we do it in lots of different ways. How we communicate, listen, take responsibility, make decisions, all sorts of ways. But when we give away our energy, it creates an energy deficit in us. So at the same time we're giving away our energy over here, we have to be trying to replace that energy by trying to steal energy from other people over here. And
Mm-hmm.
that dynamic is going on inside of everybody, everywhere, all over the world, all the time. So what I do in the Master of Business Leadership program is I show people how they're unconsciously giving away their energy, and I
Mm-hmm.
give them better habits to practice to stop doing that. And when they stop giving away their energy, their need to steal the energy of other people goes away. And it's in that process that they develop their emotional intelligence, they become more inspirational leaders, they become more conscious of what's going on in them and around them, which frees them from their ego-based fears, which builds higher levels of trust and engagement, which guarantees career, corporate, and personal success. So let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Um, this is actually the second MBL habit, and it's basically it's called authentic listening. The key to authentic listening is not to take anything personally. How
Mm-hmm.
somebody feels about you, whether they like you or whether they hate you, has nothing to do with you. It
Mm-hmm.
has to do with what's going on inside of them. But if how you feel about yourself is based on how somebody else feels about you, who's running your life, you or them? Well,
Them.
it's them,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you like me, I like me. If you don't like me, I don't like me. So,
Yeah.
as crazy as that might sound, what I've just described is all of social media. We
Mm.
bend over backwards to get people to like us so that we can feel better about ourselves. So, we're actually giving away our energy for that to happen, but it doesn't end there. Because we're unconsciously giving away our energy, we're also unconsciously trying to steal energy from everybody around us to replace the energy we're giving away. And what I've just described is the root cause of all drama, chaos, and conflict everywhere in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh,
the solution to all drama, chaos, and conflict is to learn to stop giving away your energy. And the development of emotional intelligence is one of those benefits.
yeah. I like that benefit already.
Me too.
Phil, I just so I laugh because earlier this week I was on a panel and I was dubbed this social media strategist. And I'm sitting in a room with lots of women. It's at the one of the chambers of commerce out here. And I'm sitting with two women that they just thrive off social media. They do it for their clients. One lady said she posts 5 times a day and 10 reels a day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like just listening to you, I'm just exhausted. I think the hard part about where we are about being business owners is that you have to be on social media. But I like where you're going with this of you don't have to do like I think I might have been that. What you described as I get on social, I'm trying to get people to like me, I'm this, but now I'm just like, I'm gonna post it because I feel like it. If you like it,
Yeah.
great. If you don't like it, great. I don't
And I,
care.
I
Like I
think,
just want to
Tisha,
post it.
I think that's the right approach. And you talked about, being comfortable in your own skin.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing what you do to be of service, and you're really
Mm-hmm.
looking for people that want to take advantage of that service. But you're not doing it with judgment. You're just saying, "This is me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if I can help, I'd be happy to. If I can't, that's okay too."
Yeah. Yeah. I will tell you that I didn't do social media for a long time. I didn't build my brand for a long time because of that fear that you've mentioned. The fear of what if they don't like me? And that whole thing of you don't like me, now I don't like me. Oh my gosh. How many people are going around with a complex of they don't like me, so I don't like me?
Billions.
Oh, I know, right? I mean, it's why we have anxiety, depression, panic attacks, all these things because of
Well, if
all
you
of these
think
other
about it,
people.
you're right. We get fed a diet of fear daily. You
Mm,
know, act now. You know, we only have 12 left. Um, you're too tall. You're too short. You're. We get that allows us to be controlled by our ego-based fear. The
yeah.
objective is we never leave the perceived safety of our comfort zone. And if we're unwilling to leave our comfort zone, that guarantees failure.
Hmm.
So we're driven by ego-based fear.
Hmm.
So our walls go up. We become more and more resistive, judgmental, and attached to outcome, which creates the toxic environments we see everywhere. The current level of employee engagement worldwide, according to Gallup, is around 13%.
Mm,
Low levels of employee engagement are costing the US economy alone over $1 trillion a year. And it's
hmm.
also why over 80% of all M&A, mergers and acquisitions, and organizational development initiatives fail. It's a huge
Yeah,
problem.
right.
And it's a problem that because of the accelerating rate of global change, we're being forced to address. And the key piece that we're missing in our development is emotional intelligence.
Hmm. Yeah, I think we could go on and on about emotional intelligence, I'm sure. Phil, I would love for you to take a couple minutes and tell us about the Master of Business Leadership program that you have, as well as how people can connect with you. Like, where do you spend most of your time and how they reach out?
Yeah, the MBL program. So I've been an executive coach for over 22 years now, working with executives and organizations all over the world, doing what I've described about uh, helping people to become more conscious of how they're giving away their energy and giving them better habits to stop doing that. I've helped generate over $1.5 billion, and I've helped lots of folks succeed in their careers and in their personal life and in their corporations. And I can tell you, it's no different anywhere in the world.
Hmm.
We all have the same challenges and the same opportunity to face those challenges and move through them.
Hmm. I agree. I agree. Well, and you said the Master of Business Leadership program is this global program because you have alumni everywhere in the world.
Yep.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's awesome.
you want to know my backstory?
Yeah, yeah, we got time. We got
I
time.
was I was born December 1st, 1953. I started working when I was 9 years old, pulling copper wire out of the back of dumpsters and selling it for 5 cents a pound. I was born with dyslexia, failed grade 3, failed grade 5. Um, and My mother died when I was 14. And that year I decided I was going to get on the path that I've been on for the last 55 years. I graduated in the top of my class in business and engineering. Um, I was an executive in the semiconductor industry for 20 years, traveling about 60,000 miles a year throughout
Mm,
North America and the Pacific Rim. And in 1990, I remember talking with one of my older brothers and asking, is this all there is? Because my dad was a factory worker, and I thought the higher you went up the food chain, the better the
mhm,
quality of leadership you would find. And that wasn't the case. And that's when I remembered the promise I'd made to myself in January of 1968, a month after my mother's death, that I was going to see what was on the other side of the hill and come back and help the kids that had already given up on life.
mm,
Um, so for me, what I do now comes full circle with that promise I made 55 years ago.
mhm. All full circle. Yeah. Well, it's just like you were asking me, what do I love to do? And I mean, I didn't want to build a brand, and now I help other people build brands. Full circle. Yeah, full circle. Well, I know that I have your Calendly link here. If you are listening and tuning in and you'd like to reach out to Phil, this is where you find him. You can schedule a time to chat with Phil and he can tell you all about emotional intelligence. Phil, is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap this up?
Just that I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your show, and you're my superhero today.
Oh, thank you. We
Thank
were
you.
talking about that in the green room of what's your superhero? Who is your superhero? Of course, you guys know that I sport a lot of Wonder Woman. Phil, tell us who's your
What
superhero?
did I
Who's name?
say? Black Panther.
Black Panther. You said
Right.
you're wearing your superhero costume
I
today.
am. I am. We both are.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. And no, Royce, no lasso of truth. I got your message. We will not be doing that. All right. And I love this. Royce says Phil is definitely an authority. I love it. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in today to Tisha Talks Live. Just a reminder, Tisha Talks Live will not be on next week. We are returning back on May 12th with my business coach, Alenka Cullinan, is joining me. And we'll be talking all about whatever she wants to talk about, but I know it's going to be good. So make sure you catch that and just have a great weekend. Happy Friday. And again, happy Superhero Day. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.